Welcome to the Hangout this afternoon. As you can see, we have Mark Ambrose with us today. Are you horrified at seeing yourself on screen?
Horrible, horrible.
Hey Dan, welcome too. It's good to have you joining us.
Hello, Michelle. How you doing?
Good, thank you very much. Mark.
Yeah.
Dad, pastor, dairy-free rock and roller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they all labels you claim?
No. But that's what Dan said, so it must be right. Yeah.
So what's the rock and roller? Is this your wayward teenage past coming out?
It was, and when I was young, I got involved in a sort of Christian group, and kind of a rock group. It wasn't really rock and roll; it's more rock, progressive rock. And at the time, it was the in thing with groups like Yes and ELP and Genesis, and some of the others were really sort of quite big. And so we did all that sort of stuff where we sang sort of like 15-minute songs that had every chord in the whole world in it, and kind of was really quite weird and psychedelic. And yeah, so we did that for a little while and got, we did quite well with it. And so we ended up sort of being fairly well-known Christian rockers, and which was quite interesting.
So was it the whole leather look?
No, actually it was more the punk look.
The punk look?
Yeah, sadly to say.
Safety pins?
Check trousers, zippy jackets, dustbin liners, yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I so want to see a photograph.
Yeah, I so don't want you to see one.
Okay, George, if you're watching this,
Yeah,
I need that photo.
No.
I really need that photo.
No, not happening.
Did you know he was a rock and roller, Dan?
I knew he played guitar. Yeah. He's one of the most rock and roll people in the church, actually.
Sadly, don't play very much guitar at the moment, but never mind. Carry on.
One day.
Yeah.
We live in hope.
I'll dig it out again one day.
You've just come back from America, where your lovely son Tom got married.
I did. I was one of the best moments of my life, I think, going across to North Carolina and actually managing to sort of marry my son to his fiancée, a gorgeous girl, and we had the most fantastic time. Took the whole family over and some others from here, and we all camped in one house. Or didn't camp, we were living in one house, which was fun. We had about 12 of us all on every bit of floor, and every meal was barbecuing because there wasn't enough room in the oven for us all. So it was kind of like chaos, but it was brilliant. Right next to the beach, and it was just brilliant. And the wedding went really well.
We'll talk a little bit about church stuff in a little while, because obviously you're very involved at Kingsland, and people will have probably seen you at the front with a microphone. Before we do that, just tell us a bit about what does family life look like for you? What is family like? How does it?
Family's a bit weird now. It used to be very simple because we've got 4 kids and they all were at home, but now they've sort of spread out with some in America and Chris and Frankie in London and Em still living with us. So life's a little bit weird. We're off tomorrow night. We're going to meet up all apart from Tom. We're going to Les Mis up in London, which will be really nice. And we're going to do something else because it's Chris's birthday. So yeah, that's family at the moment. But I've got a mother that's living around here who I help support, and my wife's got a mother as well that we need to look after. So yeah, family's sort of big for us, but also family's church. People, I see a lot more of people around here than they'll do at home. In fact, some people think that Neil and I are married. I think it's kind of that sad. We spend more time with each other than we do with our wives, but that's kind of sad, but true.
But are you a local lad then, Colchester born and bred?
No, I started in Whitton, so just down the road. So didn't ever get very much around Colchester. Although I did know Neil because we were both youngsters together. He was in an evangelical church here, and I was in an evangelical church in Little Totham, village church. So we kind of did know of each other. So we've known each other for a huge long time.
So did you grow up in a Christian family and always going to church and stuff?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
And loved it. I never had a problem because our band was at church. So if I can't say all my motives were good, but we met as a group after church and sometimes during church, and sometimes they let us play at church, but that doesn't happen very often because they did moan about the noise levels, but it was fun doing it.
That's still church today. Nothing's changed.
Nothing's
Too loud.
changed. I know. No, never mind.
And how did you come to faith yourself? Because if you've always been in a Christian family, always been around the church, was there a point in time when you actually say you became a Christian?
Yeah, I became a Christian when I was aged 11, and I remember it clearly, just sitting at the back of the church and sort of scratching in a pew in the front, I was challenged to write the word hallelujah at aged 11, and I was sort of scratching away with a penny coin trying to get it done. The bloke was preaching, I didn't hear a word of it.
You were defacing the church property.
I was defacing the
Okay,
property.
right.
And we just sat at the back sort of doing things like that. But he gave out the last hymn, and we thought, great, it's over. We can get on to meeting together and having our sort of after meeting type of thing as young people, and we thought that was good. And so we just had the last hymn to get through. So we got through the last hymn, and then the minister stopped and just sort of said, someone tonight is going to give their life to Jesus. I feel it in my bones. Someone's going to do it. And I don't remember anything other than being at the front there asking Jesus Christ into my life at that moment. What happened, I simply don't know. But obviously something happened to make me get up out of my seat in front of all my friends and go and do that. But it was a very special moment, and I know that was the moment, because whenever I go back, that's the moment that I go back to as being when I first became a Christian. I haven't always done good. I haven't always been a brilliant Christian. I've been very backwards and forwards, but
And is your graffiti still there in the back pew?
I hope no, it's not. They've replaced the pews. But I do know who's got the pews, so we could check.
We could check.
The local farmer's got the pews. Andrew Wood, Woodland Farm.
From graffiti artist to Christian, one giant step.
He was one of the people who was with me doing it at the time.
Oh, he was egging you on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the journey from you going through teenage life, young adult? What was the journey of you then going into working for church? How did that end up happening? Was that something you always wanted to do, or did you feel called at a certain moment to do that?
I kind of always felt, I don't know why, but I kind of felt that one day I'd do it. I don't really know why or how. I think when I met my wife to be, George, she I don't think I told her straight away, not until after we were married anyway, because I thought that'd probably scare her off. But I think early on I sort of said one day I think perhaps I might want to do something more with my life and perhaps go into ministry or something. But she kind of, we just didn't think about it really. It was kind of one of those things you say, and then life goes on. I was doing quite well in my insurance company where I was working, and she was there as well, and we had bills to pay, and so nothing happened. And then one day the firm decided they were going to be moved to Norwich, and they wanted us to go, but we kind of thought, is this the right thing? And the minister at the time asked me and sort of said, are you serious about moving to Norwich when I think that God wants you to do something with your life, something more? And I guess I thought about it, and I spoke to George, and she was, she's always been more than behind me. It's been a dual thing whenever we've done anything. And she just sort of said, yeah, let's do it, let's see what happens. So I took redundancy rather than doing that and started working at the local church. I started driving around this double-decker bus as a job, as sort of evangelist. That was when I had long hair as well, which they called me the long-haired geezer. And so I did that, and then really felt strongly God's call to ministry, which I said to George, and she still laughed. And then one day she went out and came back, and just obviously God had spoken to her and said it's time. So within a very short space of time, we ended up going up to Cambridge and training for ministry. Yeah, so it was quite quick when it actually happened.
That's another photo I want. I want the long-haired geezer photo.
Oh yeah, I've got lots of those, but my kids won't let me show them. I had a mullet. It's really not cool anymore to have mullets.
But did you always, because you're known here obviously as the sort of pastoral care person, the big heart, the big smile. Was that something that was just always there? Have you always just wanted to be a people person?
No, I was a minister, and I came to Colchester as a minister, and I think what really changed, there was a lady who was dying of cancer, and she was the first person I went to see when I started in Colchester, and she was hugely influential in my life, and I spent a lot of time with her and her husband, but she had a really severe cancer, and we ended up, supporting her and her husband and her children. And once even when she was almost dying, she had a little baby, and virtually after she had it, she had a brain tumour and she had to be rushed off to London. So George and myself looked after the baby, a sort of few days old baby, and we just looked after this baby for a little while, and it made that kind of huge impression on us of caring for this girl, and eventually she died. But she was the most amazing Christian that, because when she died, she was just so full of the joy of God, even when she was going through the terrible situation. And she brought the whole school, she brought the whole neighbourhood together, and suddenly the church, which was kind of going along reasonably well, suddenly an awful lot more people started coming through her witness. And through the witness, the fact that we had cared for her, people, I guess, felt that it was the kind of place that they'd like to come. So that's probably the most evangelistic thing I've ever done, and it turned out to be the most pastoral thing I'd ever done, was just caring for someone. And that was really what got me going in that. And of course, that led on to me going and working at the hospice for 4 years. So yeah, that was a big part of my life, looking after people. After that event, really.
Okay.
It's a big thing that changed.
Yeah. And when you went to the hospice, you went there as chaplain, is that right?
Mm.
Okay. How was that different? Because you'd been a minister at a church, and then to that. Now, it's a very different pattern than, there's no sermons to give and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was great not to have to preach every week, and it was great to have weekends off. Just unbelievable after all that time. It'd been sort of 12 or 13 years. I'd preached 2 or 3 times a week, and suddenly, you've got a weekend free, and it was just like, what are we doing? What can we do? We can do anything this weekend,
Yeah.
So
and that's when you started coming here to Kingsland?
We did, yeah.
Okay, so you made Kingsland your home at that point?
Yeah, we went to a local church first of all. We tried to sort of get into that, but we never really felt very much part of it, although it was kind of a different tradition of church, and when we came here, it felt very much more like home.
Okay.
Yeah. George came first, and she brought me. Yeah.
Okay, she checked it out, made
sure
it was all right.
Yeah, it was when the strong men came. What was it? I don't know what the guys called. Dan?
Tough Talk.
Tough Talk. They were the ones. Yeah, that was the first time we came. George came.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a chaplain at hospice, what did that involve?
It was. It was the easiest job in the world to some extent.
Really?
All you had to do was to go in.
But it's the hardest job.
Well, it may be, but it's the easiest. In the fact, all you need to do is to go in and be yourself. Because people want you to be yourself, and they just want to be normal. So they don't want this kind of, oh, you poor old thing, you've got this terrible illness, it must be awful. They want you to go in and talk about football. They want you to tell daft jokes. The most famous thing that I ever did was I went in and fell off a seat, and a lady almost died laughing. I mean, they really had problems, but it just meant that I could speak to anybody, because as soon as I went up to anybody, they all laughed and sort of thought, oh my goodness, this bloke's going to fall off his seat or something, and I could just talk to anyone. And so I discovered that actually just doing daft things actually helps, because people just want to smile. They want an excuse to smile rather than be miserable, and that was great for me, because I'm a very positive sort of person, and kind of happy sort of person most of the time. So it was just easy, and it was just the opportunity to talk to people about Jesus Christ, which obviously has meant such a lot for me over the years, and to be able to do it and be paid to do it is a kind of job that most people would die for. Really, it's absolutely fantastic. Well, some people die for, yeah. Yeah.
What does your week look like now? Now that you're at Kingsland, you're one of the pastors. What would be your day-to-day kind of jobs now that you're at Kingsland?
The day-to-day jobs. Sunday, starting with Sunday. Sunday, I just want you to know that I always have trouble getting up. I'm not good in the mornings. Before 9 o'clock, I'm a zombie. So
first service is hard work for you.
First service is hard just to even get there. But I tend to start at the first service, and then during the first service, I go out and I make sure all the rooms are tidy, and because a lot of my work is just very basic stuff. So I tidy up, I sweep the floors, I go and make sure the tables are ready for the Sunday school work that's going to happen in the second service. Check around the cafe, make sure it's all in reasonable condition. It's silly things like that. And then when that's over, I'll go back into the morning service, and then the second service, I'll be in there. I like to welcome people and just keep up with people. But in the second service, sometimes I go and teach in the Sunday school, one of the groups, and then by the time the services are over, people come into the cafe, and then we go and talk to them. So generally, we get home about 3 in the afternoon, and then we're back at 6:30 for the evening service, and so that Sunday's pretty much gone. Mondays is my day off, which I try to guard pretty religiously because I spend some time with my wife, which I really, really love. So we get some time together to do whatever we want to do, which is nice. And then on Tuesdays, it's office picking up stuff from Sunday that needs to be picked up. It's a mixture of answering the phone. People come in to see me to talk about different things, problems or issues or opportunities or something that's inspired them, and so they'll come in and talk to them, pray with them and talk to them. Then there's the cafe always that's going on. They always need a hand in the cafe when things happen, so it's sort of downing tools and making people coffee, or going and helping cooking or serving, and then in the afternoons perhaps catching up on some paperwork, perhaps visiting someone. Anything like that might happen, and then on the Tuesday evening is the connections course that we run here. Sometimes I come in slightly early and help with Gateway before that. So that's Tuesday, and it just goes on like that through the week. Different things happening.
Because your office is right next to the cafe, and you mentioned that you help out in the cafe a bit as well. I guess similar to when we hang out on Google with Andrew, do you find you're having conversations with people that you maybe wouldn't normally be seeing? Are there people that you kind of end up just feeling led to go and talk to, or do you see that as part of your role there?
Yeah, very much so, and we do that. It's just this. It's just part of everything that happens here. People wander in from the street here. We had a lady last week who wandered in, and Andrew came and saw me because I was busy in here, and he said, would you mind just having a chat with her? Because she looks very upset. So I went and sat with her, and we talked, and and it's nice to think that people from outside can think that they can come here and find somebody who will just talk with them and listen to them, which I think is a really nice thing.
What would you say? Because your role is pastoral care. What is pastoral care? Is it there, bounce the baby, you'll be all right, mate? What is pastoral care?
That's it, yeah. Next. Yeah, no, it's bigger than that, I think. It's just basically caring for people. It's a very simple thing, but of course, when you care for people, it might be that for some people it's a massive problem that you try and go through with them. We try and send people for counselling, or we pray with people, or we try and help people physically in some way. We'll try and do whatever we can to help people, but sometimes it's more than that. It's actually helping people to develop their Christian life. In a way, that's caring for them. So it's kind of the discipleship groups and things to do with pastoral care. We're trying to lead them and guide them in a direction towards God and towards the gospel, and I think that's really important. So we try to emphasise that pastoral care is not just for those people who are sick and dying, or it's everybody we need to care for. We need to make sure that everybody feels loved, everybody feels part of our community, and part of our Kingsland family, and everybody is helped forward to the place where God's leading them.
Isn't that the impossible job?
Yes, that's why it's such fun doing it.
You're still smiling.
I know.
But it's not just you doing it, is it?
No,
how does this work? Because if people come up here and they how do you even know they need any help?
Yeah. And
who's doing it?
The good thing, you're dead right. And the last thing I want anyone to think of is that I'm doing all the work, because I'm not. I have a very good team here. I've got about 30 or 40 people on the pastoral list that all help behind the scenes and do the main bulk of it. So, this lady, for instance, who came in really upset, I spoke to her and I got to a certain point, but I realised that what she really needed was somebody who could spend a lot more time with her, and someone would listen to her, and somebody perhaps who was her age, who could understand where she's coming from a little bit more. So I immediately told her of a lady that was in the church, and today I've learned that she's rung her up, and they're starting to, they're going to take that forward together. So yeah, lots of wonderful people who really do care for people, and yeah, I couldn't do it without them. It would be a thankless task without them.
Yeah. The tough question then is, how does being a Christian solve those problems?
Yeah, I guess the problem, the initial thing is that they probably won't initially think that will solve their problems. Initially, to say someone, you've got this problem, well, Jesus will help you. It's a bit like saying, clear off, or a bit like saying, whatever. It's a bit of a put off for that person to hear something like that. So oftentimes you've got to show them love before you've got to listen. You've got to help them. You've got to show some kind of care for them, and before you can introduce the whole thing about Jesus being able to help them. But the truth is that ultimately, all of us as human beings have got this kind of Jesus-shaped hole in us, and that if he's not there, we've got something missing in our lives that will not give us that joy and that kind of peace and everything else that we need. So, the common denominator in everybody that comes to see us, or that everybody who's kind of comes into the church or whatever, is that they are people, they are sinners in need of the grace of Jesus Christ, just as I am, just as we all are. So when you go from that as a start, we can help them, we can try to show the love of God to them, but eventually we will talk to them about the Saviour Jesus Christ who died for them, that they would know freedom, that they would not have to live in guilt, that they might know joy, that they might know peace, that they may have booked their place in heaven. All those kind of really good news stories that we can give them, and of a God that loves them and cares for them and sent his son to die for them. So it's a good news story that we can tell people, but it is probably only after they've told us their own problems and become open to what we've got to say. Yeah, we don't kind of jam this Bible down their throats and say, read this. It's kind of much more of a, that's what's got to say too. That's our hope.
Mm.
Oh, definitely. No. I wish it did. I've been praying for my own stuff. And
is this why you're dairy free?
That's why I'm dairy free.
Ah.
And it does give me a few problems, and it's very awkward. And I keep praying and thinking one day God's going to listen to my prayer and hear me, but he hasn't done yet. And then, so therefore I have to say, why is this happening? And perhaps there's a reason behind why this is happening to me, and perhaps I should listen more. and actually think about why this is happening and what perhaps I'm doing now that I haven't been doing. And perhaps when I learn that, and perhaps when I start being a bit more obedient to God and hearing to what He's saying, He may heal me. But not everybody gets healed, and I think it would be dishonest out of us to always say that. And I wouldn't decide who He's going to heal. Not up to me. It's up to Him. And if He decides to heal someone, then we're all overjoyed, of course, and we will always pray for everybody to be healed. But it's God's choice, and for some reason that I know not, I wish I knew more. For some reason He's decided to see it happen, but on other people He doesn't. And that's not to say that He's not going to do it in the future, and that's not to say that there hasn't been some sort of ultimate healing going on in our lives. But oftentimes physical healing. A lot of people quite upset that they pray it doesn't happen, and I think it's more to do with timing to us through that, than perhaps blaming God for our problems.
Does the fact that you're not healed distract the joy that God gives you?
Because I'd like that to happen, but if you're not healed, it doesn't. It leaves you. You do feel. You kind of feel it hasn't happened, and you'd like it to happen, and you kind of feel disappointed. And I think that's normal. But somehow, there is still a deep down joy that you can get when you know Jesus Christ that shines through that and makes it possible to live a kind of a joyful Christian life, even though you've got something perhaps that that isn't right. I mean, Paul had his thorn in the flesh. We don't know what that was. Some people thought it was migraines.
Paul,
the Apostle Paul in the Bible.
Yeah. One that wrote all the letters.
But here's the one. Apparently he had that. No one really knows, but clearly he had something wrong with him. And a lot of people I know, have got things wrong. One guy in the hospice who came to faith, miraculously came to faith, he still had his cancer, and he still died. And yet his story, when he came to faith, was absolutely unbelievable, and it caused so many other people to come to faith. It was just brilliant, and he was a different person. He just smiled his way to his grave, really. The most amazing man, and I'm sure I shall see him again.
That's got to be a good way to go.
It is.
Smiling your way to the grave.
Yeah.
Because it was just a passing through point for him then.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. It is amazing when you see people like that. I've got a very small thing that I suffer with, and it really doesn't cause me that much problems. But I really admire people, and you see some people who seem to be in the depths of despond with their illness, and yet their Christian faith just shines through them. And though that illness is really getting them down, somehow there's something very precious in them that just shines out of them, something really beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah. Mark, thank you for talking to us.
Pleasure.
He's a guy with a big heart, isn't he, Dan?
Absolutely, yeah. Big heart and big hair in the oven.
Yeah, we'd like to see the long hair.
Yeah, the hair's going. That's going this weekend, I hope.
You got more than Neil, you're okay.
Not much more. Promise you, it's disappearing rapidly.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the Hangout. If anyone wants to get hold of Mark, email address is connect@Kingsland.
mark@kingsland.org.uk.
Okay, and if people want to talk pastorally, you're the guy to point them in the right direction and link them up with.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
Always happy to do that.
And pray.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so the deal is, if you need prayer, talk to Mark. He'll put you in touch with some great people, but you've also got to pray for Mark's stomach, okay? That's the deal.
I would be most satisfied if that was to be healed. That would make my day.
Okay, let's get on it then. Thanks for joining us on the Hangout. See you around. Bye, Dan. Bye, everybody else.